Ty Newman heads it back to the red line, but Ercole has it for Baltimore. Plays it ahead for Barrelich. One-touch pass for Wirtz. A shot blocked. It's loose in front. Mayer jumps on it to recover. The distribution out to Eric Geyer.
Hello once again, everybody. Welcome to Soccer's Overtime and our continuing Legends series. My name is Craig Elsten, CMO and broadcaster for the San Diego Sockers. If you've been following along to our accounts for the last few months, you know what we've been doing. We've been reliving the great days of the MISL and the MSL and even back to the NASL. We've had on some terrific guests from Brian Quinn to Paul Wright to Randy Hahn and Zoltan Toth, and today, it is my true pleasure to welcome back to San Diego an indoor soccer Hall of Famer. He was one of the original Sockers. In fact, he played for San Diego before they were called the Sockers, and we're going to get into it all as I am thrilled to welcome in number 0, Alan Mayer, to Soccer's Overtime and our Legend series. Alan, Craig Elsten back here in San Diego. Thank you so much on behalf of all of our great Sockers fans for your time.
Oh, well, Craig, thank you so very much. I'm absolutely honored. I'm thrilled to be on your show. I've been watching your other shows, and they're awesome. And to be thought of in good enough for you to let me be on your show, I'm absolutely thrilled. I'm excited to get going.
Oh, I can't wait. I just want to let everybody know who's watching our video that Alan and I recorded portions of this interview earlier. We had a technical Zoom glitch that we didn't want to put you all in front of and force you to listen to something really glitchy. So we are doing a little bit of a brief re-record. So if you see some brief continuity issues on the video, do not despair. You are not crazy. For everyone listening on audio on the podcast, you won't be able to tell the difference. So for all of you, it's just a smooth ride either way. So Alan, it's so exciting to get the chance to talk to you, a guy who cut his bones in outdoor and then moved to indoor at the time when the sport truly took off. So that's where I wanted to start for you. Okay. You were a multi-sport athlete in high school growing up. You probably had a lot of choices in terms of which direction you might take your pro aspirations. And at the time, in the early mid-70s, soccer, let's be fair, was not one of the more popular sports in the United States, nor considered one of the more lucrative sports in the United States. So let's start with the beginning of your journey. What led you toward choosing soccer as a sport?
Well, it actually, when you talk about a career involved, and it basically started back in early in my career or early in my life, back in New York. I grew up in Long Island, New York. And that's when I started my career, basically. And as a youngster, I always dreamed, like everybody dreams of being something or somebody. And my dream was being a professional athlete. I thought, boy, this would be cool. And I didn't care what the sport was, whether it was soccer, basketball, baseball, football, tiddlywinks, anything. Just the idea of the thought of being paid to play something that you really enjoy was incredible. So that was when I was maybe 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years old. I start getting into high school, and all of a sudden the competitions get a little bit stronger. And I did play soccer, basketball, and tennis in high school. And so the dream started going away a little bit. Then in college, where I played the sports again, competition was getting a lot stronger, and I really didn't think of being a professional basketball player, a baseball. I in that time really soccer wasn't even around. Matter of fact, I didn't even think about a soccer career until basically in my 1974. And I was playing college soccer for James Madison University, and we're in the dorm one day towards the end of the year, and I get a call from the dorm, and they said, this gentleman wants to speak to you. And I go and get on the phone. It's Doug Millward, who was the head coach for the Baltimore Comets at that time in the NASL. And boy, I hate to say this, but I don't know about the naivety of it, but I did not really know that Baltimore. I didn't know. I never heard of the Baltimore Comets. I didn't even know the NASL existed.
Yeah.
So I did not think about a professional career in soccer. As a matter of fact, when I was going through college, I was thinking maybe I wanted to be of all things, an FBI agent. So I thought when my next few months or something, when college was over, I'd be going into trying to get into the FBI Academy or something. I get this call from Doug Miller, and it's like, whoa. So that was the very, very first time I thought that I could make soccer a career, when I got that call. And so I ended up playing with the Comets, Baltimore Comets, that is. It was drafted in 1974 and played with them for 2 years. And then from there, the team went, and it was a good team. It was wonderful. And actually, it was a great beginning for me personally, because the situation, I was drafted in the first round to go to Baltimore, and they already had a goalkeeper there, a fellow named Lincoln Phillips. And I don't know if that name means anything to the audience there, but Lincoln Phillips was an all-time great goalkeeper. But he's also a great soccer person in general. He coached Howard University in many championships, but just a wonderful person. He was getting towards the end of his years, and he took me under his wings and helped me develop as a player and as a person. And for this, to this very day, I absolutely love Lincoln Phillips. If it wasn't for him, I probably wouldn't be playing, because if I went to a team that Lincoln was older, so if he knew he had a year or two left, and he took me and said, "Alan, let's go." So he played most of the first year, and I played most of the second year, which would be 1975. And then from then, we unfortunately some teams fold and move, and we fortunately found a place called San Diego. So the old Baltimore Comets, where we went into, became the San Diego Jaws. And when I first heard about San Diego, Craig, I tell you, I was a little skeptical, because that was 3,200 miles away from the school that I went to, from my hometown in New York. And but when I found out how nice San Diego was, my wife and I said, "Well, let's go." So we were excited. We made the cross-country trip and ended up in San Diego, and started with the Jaws. And we're very fortunate there, because that was my first time where, I was the full time, all the time goalkeeper, and it worked out wonderful, and I loved it there. Loved it.
So many directions that we can go off of that, but I want to start with being a college kid who gets a call in his dorm room from a professional NASL soccer team saying, "Listen, there's a draft coming. We're going to make you a first-round pick. We want you to come out to play." And you're like, "Okay, this sounds great. Now, how about some information? What does NASL stand for? Where are you? What is this place?" And were you even aware of, for example, the great Pele, who had put the NASL on the map with the Cosmos?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I was all in those same feelings. I didn't even know what it was, and I had to do a little research on it. I hate to admit it now, but I never even heard of Pele. I didn't know about I knew that they played soccer in the rest of the world, but I never was ever a Liverpool fan or Manchester. I never even heard of those teams. So I was very raw. I mean, I didn't actually start playing soccer until I was 15 years old. And so that gave me just a few years in high school and then into the college. And then it was a shocker that I got that call from them. And it was kind of neat. I was in my dorm with all my buddies there. And they said, what was that call? And I explained it to them. And the very next weekend, they had the draft. So we went through the draft, got drafted. And then a week after the draft or so, I had to drive from my college, because we still had a second semester to go. And I drove from my school, James Madison, to Baltimore, which was about a 3-hour drive. And I had to do it. We trained and things on the weekends. And it was the first time of, big time soccer or anything that I'd known about. And it was very thrilling. Matter of fact, I had the very first check that I ever got from. Remember earlier I mentioned about professional athletes being getting paid to play with, doing something. I kept my first check. That it was a $20 expense check from Baltimore Comets from the driving from my school to practice. So it was fun.
Now, at that time, doing some research into soccer in the 70s in the United States, you had the North American Soccer League, the NASL, which had a
Right.
very European influence to it. A lot of foreign players in the league, Eastern European, of course, which were many of the players that became future Soccers. And then you had a lesser, more American league that was playing in much smaller venues up and around California and whatnot. So being in that NASL and being exposed to some folks from across the pond who had made this their life sport, as opposed to you who come to it at 15. What was that type of culture clash like, being with folks who are used to putting on the kit? And you're probably still learning what the words mean for the kit and the boots and all that.
Hey, funny thing you say that, because I never heard the word kit. I never heard the word boots. It was uniform and your shoes. So I never even, the pitch, I never heard the pitch. I never heard the word football for soccer. It was a learning curve for me there. And the first team that we had was, interesting enough, because we had an English coach, we had about probably 5 or 6 English players on the team, and about 4 or 5 players from Trinidad, Jamaica, that type area, and then about 6 Americans. So it was predominantly an English team, and it was exciting because you started learning that people take this game serious, and that you learn how to train properly, and it's a full-time job, and you learned a lot about the game itself, and that was because as I say, soccer wasn't my number one sport. It was basketball, and then maybe a little soccer, but basketball, tennis, and soccer was the sport that I didn't really know anything about, and it was almost a culture shock to. But fortunately, I met with some great teammates, and they took me under their wings, and one in particular, Peter Sylvester, who ended up as the MVP of the league that year, and also he joined us with the Jaws. I don't know if some of the Jaw fans out there would remember Peter, but he did it. He helped me out a lot in that time.
Now, it's amazing when you think about soccer in America today as opposed to soccer in America back then, because, of course, the U.S. men's national team, beloved by millions across the country, the World Cup every 4 years now is a really big thing. I think back then it was far more remote, far less covered. People weren't really aware of that. But I think it's also a sign of how far soccer's come, that there you were, a very young goalkeeper who was just figuring out how to put those boots on, and you got noticed and called and selected for the USMNT for 1976.
Right. Yeah, that was a shocker in a way as well. After playing with it started, thank goodness, with the Jaws. Being full time there, and we had a good team there. Didn't have as many as the results that we wanted, but I got a lot of playing time in there. I was able to be noticed, and when we got the call up from the team, it was a little bit of a shock, but it was. I really, to be honest with you, Greg, I was so early in my career, I didn't even understand the meaning of being a national team player. I didn't understand the honor of it. I didn't understand, now you're taking another step forward in your career, because technically, really, I found out now later that, playing for the national team is probably going to be the highlight of anybody's career. But being American and growing up, we never had that experience. So I had to learn that from after my first stint with the national team, where we went for I went there, we trained for a while, went for a 6-week stint down into South America and Mexico at play. When I came back, I was treated by my teammates, the foreign teammates, in a much better, in a different light. Like, they had to explain to me, Alan, playing for your national team is a really good thing, and it's an honor. And I really I did not understand that at the time. Now, obviously, I do. I mean, it's the greatest honor you can have. And to play for your national team was wonderful, especially when you're playing before a game, and obviously, they play your national anthems and the other team's national anthem. And to know, like, when I played with the Jaws, only the San Diego people saw me and a few other different teams. So you're representing San Diego, and it was wonderful. But when you play for the national team, you're representing San Diego, you're representing New York, you're representing Seattle, you're representing Florida, you're representing Minnesota, you're all of the United States. So it's a much bigger audience, a much bigger step, and it was wonderful. And I was, fortunate to be. I mean, we were on a really, we were on a good team, and it was exciting, and we had some pretty good results. And but to play into the World Cup, and I played officially. They say I played 6 games, 6 caps, but I probably played about 18 or 20, because in those early stages, you would go ahead and play against other college teams and to get to practices before we went to an official tour in South America. It was exciting.
Fascinating. Let's continue to discuss these early years of your career, because at that time, and you mentioned it before, the NASL had a lot of a lack of certainty. There was volatility is the word I'm looking for. There was a lot of volatility in the NASL. There were teams that were coming and going. And for example, we referenced the San Diego Jaws. They arrive in America's finest city in 1976. They take their name after Spielberg's summer blockbuster. But I'm afraid they scored about as many goals as Richard Dreyfuss did in the movie. I mean, not too many. And it was a 1-year deal, and then you were in Las Vegas. The team picked up. They moved to Sin City, and we'll have some more Vegas talk later in the interview. But then back in 1978, to San Diego, same franchise. It was Baltimore. It was the Jaws. It was the Quicksilvers. Now the San Diego Sockers with new ownership. Tell me a little bit about when you heard that the franchise was moving back, or whether the news sounded different coming from different voices from different owners.
Well, that's interesting. It's an interesting story in the respect that we didn't know that, obviously we went to Las Vegas. We thought that was going to be, I actually thought that was going to be the rest of my career. I mean, we bought a house there, my wife and I, and at that time, my son, and so we played it there for, we signed basically a 2-year contract there, so we knew we were going to be there for 2 years and hopefully more, and we thought that was going to be it. At the end of the first year, the team folded, and then they said, let's go back to San Diego, and it was like, oh wow, that's a, we were just there, and I was hoping to be able to. I mean, that's if you're going to be going somewhere, if you're going to fold and go somewhere, because there was other places they were thinking about going to. I thought that would be a great place, but when we were with the Quicksilvers at that time. We had a pretty good team, and I had a pretty good season. We made the all-star team and things. And at the end of the year, the team folded, and then I got a call from like the Cosmos, and I thought I was going to go back. I thought maybe I'll go to there. But when San Diego came in, and it was like, okay, now they're officially making the move to San Diego. Then it was like, well, I've already been there. I loved it there. Wonderful, and to go back would be just exciting. And so we came to an agreement, and it was one of the better decisions. You know, we were moving all the place, but going back to San Diego was wonderful.
Now, this is kind of an off the wall question, but it just occurs to me as we talk because so many people now, today, the name San Diego Sockers, especially within the community of San Diego, is revered, and the name signifies success, championships, greatness. But the name Sockers with the kicking K
Right.
is kind of a funny name, and a lot of people who don't know anything about the sport, when they hear it, they go, Sockers? What the hell is Sockers? So I'm just wondering, the very first time you heard the name San Diego Sockers, what your reaction was.
Okay, well, the very first time, I thought it was wonderful. I thought it was a great name, especially with the K in there and looking for a kicker, looking like someone's kicking. It looked like a stick person trying to kick a ball. I thought it was wonderful because you're playing on a sport you're playing, and then the team. So as soon as you say Sockers, it identifies with the sport that you're playing. And I thought, wow, this is a good name. So let's rock and roll with it. So that was my feeling at the time. I don't know what everybody else thought about it, but I liked it.
I mean, yeah, I like it too. But I still encounter that from time to time when I talk to people outside the circle, and they're like, Sockers? What? Why are they named the Sockers? You know, why isn't it 2 C's? And so we go through the whole thing.
But you always know what sport the Sockers play then, because of the name association.
Well, I'm wearing the crest right now, but I'm perfectly happy to go back to the kick. Yeah, I'm happy to go back to the kicking K, though. I love the kicking K. I think it's one of the most distinctive logos of all time. Let's talk about your playing style, Alan. You were a player, and from a lot of the articles I've read, the research I've done, you were a player that was a very aggressive keeper, utilizing all of your box, willing to roam, not tied to your line, and you can tell me, but I imagine playing that kind of rough and tumble style has an impact on you physically.
Well, it does, and but that was just the way I played. I mean, you nailed it. My game was based on aggression, reflexes, and I think a lot of it has to do with just the type of personality that I have, and also I never really learned. As I mentioned earlier, I started soccer at 15. I didn't start being a goalkeeper until I was 16. So I never had the training. I never had a coach that knew anything about goalkeeping until like maybe a few years into professionalism. And so I never even not one time had a soccer coach that could teach you the technical part of it. So technically, I wasn't a very good goalkeeper, but all the other, I had one philosophy, still do in ways, is, goalkeeping is pretty easy. Is you see the ball, go get it. And that's basically the way I played. I didn't know the correct way of going up, which foot you jump off in. I just know when the ball's up in the air, you go up and high and get it. And because of my basketball background and stuff, I was able to, adjust and things with that. But along with aggression, comes, unwarranted injuries and things. You can get hurt during that way. But I never crossed my mind about it. It was always based on aggression. If I saw something, I'd go with it, go for it. If it was a matter of going into the head first for something, you do that. If it matters stopping the ball with your face, you do that. Because the end result is, we have an easy job in respect that they shoot the ball and all you got to do is save it. Hit your body, hit your foot, hit your head, whatever. So it was that was my whole game was based on that, and I wasn't afraid of anybody or any place on a field or knocking into anybody in that respect. So I think it helped me out tremendously. But it turns out that maybe that was one of the reasons why, further along, I had to protect myself with a lot of pads and things.
Well, and we're getting there, certainly, because I've told you before, we've got these scrapbooks that I'm digitizing for our fans to enjoy, old San Diego Union, San Diego Tribune articles with some great pictures, and I've got some great early Alan Mayer photos with your flowing hair, you know, with the locks
Yeah.
going everywhere.
Yeah.
And of course, people who know you, and especially people who know you from your Hall of Fame indoor career, remember maybe almost in a way your claim to fame, Alan Mayer, the keeper who wore a helmet
Right.
while he was on the field. So I know you had a big concussion against the U.S.-Mexican national team right during exhibition play in '78.
Mm-hmm.
At what point did you make the decision that you needed to cover your head, that the concussions were going to be, let's say, a career-long issue?
Right. Well, it basically started. The concussion started basically. I was a little kid, as doing all kinds of different, running on the ice and skipping and hitting your head, and running to my grandmother's house that lived next to us and hit a clothesline and fell backwards. So I got them during high school, during college. But the ones in when I really started about protecting myself was when we had a game in 1977 with the Quicksilvers versus the New England team, and they had a big boy up front, Jeff Hammond, I think his name, from England, and there was a breakaway 50-50 ball. I came flying out, he came in, and at the end the ground was wet, so he slid in with his studs straight up in the air towards the goalkeeper. And as I say, sometimes I go out with my head thing. I caught the cleat marks, and I had 4 cleats embedded in my head and about 45-50 stitches. Went to the hospital, and I was looking up in the ceiling because I was laid out looking up, and I said to myself, if I want to continue to play, I should start thinking about wearing a protection for this, or I'm not going to be able to continue. That was when the first time I started thinking about it. Then we went to play for the San Diego Sockers. I think it was the 4th game into the season. We went up and played a game in Portland, and I had a big collision with somebody, and I went down, and I remember Hubert Vogelsinger. It was an important game. It was early on, and we were up 2-1, and Vogelsinger, who's the coach of the team, he comes out when I'm laying down there, and he's asking if I can go back in. And concussions in those days were nothing like it is today. I mean, you go down and someone touches you, and that you have concussion, a concussion protocol. At those days, you stayed. You just played through it. You were almost a pansy if you decided I can't play. So Hubert comes out and he says, can you keep going? There's like 20 minutes left to go in the game. I said, of course, I stayed in the game. And then as soon as he left, I saw, like you got a field of like roughly about 120 yards, and it goes straight across. Well, for me, what happened in that scenario, I went out and the field went to the 18-yard box, and visually, then the field went straight up in the air. So I could see the entire soccer field 18 yards out, and then the rest of the field was straight up, like from the 18-yard line all the way up to the sky. And I could see players, running around and kicking the ball. But until they got to my box, I could actually see him like the way it is. So it was kind of a bad one. And I continued, as I say, played, ended up going to hospital after the game, spending the night there, and then on trip back to San Diego, I had to, they something had to be done, because I was told by the owner, maybe the owner, the coach, that maybe you should, start thinking about protecting yourself a little bit more. So I took, fortunately, I had a Dr. Ed Cruiser. I think he's still in San Diego. And we went out to a bunch of stores to look for a helmet. Actually found a helmet upstairs and up top in a sporting goods store. We went and got a ladder, jumped up there and pulled it down. And I put it on, and it was pretty comfortable. What it was just a foam rubber deal. And I thought, well, you know what? It's like a knee pad. Like I usually equate it to if the reason why you wear a knee pad is so when you fall on the ground, your whole knee absorbs the blow, and then you're fine. So I thought that maybe if I put a foam rubber helmet around me, I would be able to absorb the blow. And fortunately, it worked nicely for me. And I only received like maybe one or two after wearing the helmet, and it worked well. I made a few adjustments to it. So without and an interesting story or at least I find it interesting, is the NASL tried to when I went up to California Surf after the Soccers, they held off my contract and they wouldn't allow me to play because some people saying that Alan's too aggressive with out there playing, and his style of he's taking more chances because he's wearing the helmet. He's allowed to take more chances. Interesting enough that Bob Bell, who's the owner of the Soccers at that time, he came to my defense and basically said to the league, he wrote a letter that said to the league, "Hey, listen, I know Alan before he had the helmet, and I know Alan after he had the helmet, and there's no difference in his play." And then the NASL decided, okay, we'll let you keep it and continue to play.
You were crazy
Bob
then
Bell for allowing me to keep my helmet.
Yeah, he said you were crazy then and you're crazy now. There's no difference, right?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So it worked out. It worked out really nice.
I've got to ask you,
and of course,
how much guff did you receive from fans, opposing players? Because it's so unique. You just don't see that. Even to today, you don't see keepers that wear head protection for the most part.
Right. Well, there's a few that still wear it. Wear like over in England, Peter Cech. I mean, there's some, and it's interesting. In that time when I was wearing it, a lot of leagues decided that in California that if you're going to have a goalkeeper, they need to wear protection on the head. So a lot of leagues started making their goalkeeper wear helmets, but it faded off. But I got so much stick. I mean, it was incredible. Everywhere I went, and it wasn't on my teammates. My teammates were pretty good. I mean, the teammates were very good, because they just said, okay, that's the way it is. That's the way it is. And it became, okay, that's Alan, so be it. But the opposing players made a lot of fun. They called you names when I'd be playing. Like playing for other team, people would be throwing things at me. I remember seeing pennies and stuff, candy bars and stuff being thrown. They wanted to. I later find out because I met a few of those people. They said, "Well, we were just trying to hit you in the helmet with it." So I got a tremendous amount of stick. But fortunately, I told myself I'm going to wear it no matter what, and no matter how much people made fun of me or didn't like it. And I had lots of writers write that he shouldn't be allowed to wear it, etc. But it worked out that I just said I'm going to do it, and it's turned out years later, and that'd be what 78 on. That's 40, 50 years. People are still people call me helmet head and stuff like that. So. But at least I'm able to have a conversation with people now after 13, 14 concussions because of the helmet really helped save me, I think.
Oh, absolutely. And I'd love to go track down one of those columnists with their freezing cold takes about man up and take more concussions. I mean, that's
yeah. Yeah, well,
that's some real 70s guy thinking right there.
Absolutely. So I got a few articles here in my book here, and so it's pretty interesting.
One last thing on this topic, because I feel like, Alan, you really embraced it in a way, in that when I watch these old classic games, you had a style. I mean, yes, the helmet, it's distinctive, but the way you taped your wrists, the way you put in your knee pads. Like, you had a look that was all your own, that was incredibly distinctive. And did you kind of embrace that? I mean, like, you had your own style.
Well, yeah, I did in a way, but I embraced it in a way of having it enhance my career. And what I did was I wore a lot of pads because the ground, as you know, with the indoor team, the surface is very, very hard. And outdoor, you play on grass and things, you may dive 5 or 6 times, 10 times a game, nice, soft. Indoor is always hard. A lot of in those days, early days, a lot of times you play right on top of ice. You know, you have the carpet. So I thought it's going to hurt me because by wearing a lot of pads, because it's going to slow you down some. And I wore tons. I mean, double knee pads, hip pads, elbow pads, tape my wrist, the helmet, as I say, double elbow pads, and it looked like I was, you know, literally 30 or 40 pounds overweight. And I knew that it doesn't, like nowadays people they wear as little as possible because they think that they can move better. And in a lot of ways that you can move better with very little on. But I thought to help my career be able to last longer, protect myself from this constant hitting on the ground. And hence that's why I wore it. So it was more of a protection type thing. And then as you say, I didn't do it anything for show or anything like that, which is basically, I needed my wrist taped, Harvey, so that when you have a hard shot, your wrist doesn't fall backwards. It just stays there and be able to push a ball off to the side. And so everything had a purpose. And it's also used to take me about 45 minutes to dress, to get ready, because I had a routine that I did exactly the same thing for practice and for games. And so it was more of a routine thing that ended up doing with all the pads and stuff. But it made me look really fat, or I should say plumpy.
Incredible stuff. So as the Sockers begin their outdoor journey, of course, with a completely different coach, Vogelsinger, and some okay results, but not a championship level. At that same time, the MISL begins with 6 teams out on the East Coast, and by year number 2, if my research was right, 79-80, you were playing with the Pittsburgh Spirit during the winter. When
Yes.
did the indoor catch your fancy? What drew you to it?
Well, a few years before that, when I was with the Baltimore Comets, we had a tournament down in Tampa Bay, and they had a 14 tournament down there, and we went down there and played. And I don't remember any of the scores or anything, but I do remember it was a lot of fun. So when the MISL came about in 1978. And then we had an opportunity to go in 79 to play. And that's another story on how I had that opportunity. But it worked. As soon as I heard that they were playing indoor, it all has to do with my status with the Sockers. I just signed a 2-year contract. And in 79, my contract was over. So I was a free agent, and so I wanted something to do in the wintertime, and Pittsburgh came in with the opportunity to play, and I really said to myself, wow, I'd like to go and try it out, because at that time the MISL was really starting to take off, and the NASL was going down a little bit. So I thought it's a great opportunity to try something new, and I went to Pittsburgh. I loved it. And then ended up playing for the last 9 years of my career was indoors. And I've mentioned in the past where the difference between the indoor and outdoor game for me was I really liked the outdoor game. The outdoor game was a lot of fun, but I absolutely loved the indoor game. It was all the qualities of
an indoor would just fit what I liked, such as, the aggression, reflexes. It was always a good day. It was never windy. You're playing under controlled atmosphere, never windy, never raining. You never got any bad bumps. Like sometimes in those days, the goal mouths weren't necessarily the most even way they are now. They're like playing on a putter green now. But at that time when I played, there was a whole bunch of holes and things in the 6-yard box. Balls take bad bounces. So I enjoyed the beginning of the indoor, and from then that moment on, I really got the bug on it, and then we just continued to play and took off in the indoor.
Lest you think that I only go back and watch old soccer games to cut highlights, I absolutely do that professionally. But
right.
But I've been, as I told you even when we were setting up this interview, I've really been trying to research the MISL, and that led me to watch some old New York Arrows games that are on YouTube. I was watching New York Arrows Pittsburgh Spirit last night as I went to bed, and one thing that really blows me away, looking all the way back, Alan, was the evolution of strategy. And it seems like the strategy of the indoor game was being discovered by players, coaches, and teams literally on the run. People were out there kind of figuring it out, and the origin of the wall pass is a deadly scoring weapon. The way that of course, and we'll talk about it more as we get back to San Diego, but how Ron Newman revolutionized things such as shift changes and using the doors and whatnot. But it really does feel like a very unique situation of a sport that was kind of learning its own strategy and what worked on the run.
Oh, no question about everything you just said there is dead on, is dead on. And it was a wonderful beginning to a super deal, in the respect that it had what a lot of the American public wants to see. Basically, what you're just saying. It had a lot of entertainment value. It had lots of goals, and people can understand it. It's similar to hockey, but hockey you can hardly. Sometimes it's hard to see the puck. Right. Here you got that big red ball, and you could see. And boy, did the fans take to it. I mean, those 78, 79, 80, 81, you had crowds that were outstanding everywhere you went. I remember in the early years when I was with the Sockers, you would have you'd go to the Baltimore with the Kansas City Comets, and they would be drawing those 18,000 people, and they had 56 consecutive sellouts, and one of the out of all the sports, or the hockey, basketball, and soccer, the indoor sports, the Comets had the third best attendance, and it was only because the other two, which I believe were the Celtics and Edmonton or something, had a bigger stadiums, bigger arenas.
Right. So
the popularity at that time was tremendous, and it was good to, as a player, to get involved in it in the earlier stages as well.
What's so fascinating to me about that, Alan, is that it's like now, today, 2020, soccer's popularity in the United States as compared to where it was in 1980, I mean, it's night and day, right? I mean, we've got people now who are fans of every English Premier League club, of teams in Serie A, La Liga, Liga MX, go around, and never mind MLS flourishing in 30 markets and continuing to expand. It's a completely different world. Back when you were playing short of Pele, and look, you were a pro player who didn't know who Pele was, didn't know what the national team was. I mean, the level of knowledge and lore and culture that today we think is so important to what makes a soccer fan, back then was almost entirely absent. And yet, the sport of indoor soccer seemed to not just catch someone's fancy, but, as you mentioned, to have this intense popularity where they would sell out gigantic arenas to see a sport that basically no one had ever seen before, and no one had any background like they would today to go, yeah, I love soccer. Let's try this thing out. It kind of always strikes me as amazing that it was as popular as it was.
Yeah, it's mind-boggling actually, and it's uh, how popular it was at the time, and for a lot of the reasons that you mentioned, and it's just uh, it seemed that for 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years, it was getting better and better and better, and what a pleasure it was to play in an atmosphere where you had a sellout crowd. I mean, when you played at the sports arena those days, we used our fans as basically an extra player. And I honestly felt when I was playing there that we had a 2-goal advantage before we even started the game, just because of the fans, the excitement, the energy that they derived from it, and the entertainment that they got out of it. It overflow into the players, and the players was like, well, we're not gonna lose. We're gonna, I always felt that we had like a 2-goal lead just before it all started, before the game started, and that has to do with the popularity, I think, and having to do with the fans' participation and excitement actually leads on into the players when they're on the field.
Let's talk about that magical 1982-1983 season. You won league MVP. You won 30 games, leading the league, I believe setting the league record at that time, 4 wins. You had a very, very good regular season, which obviously was noted. But then in the playoffs, going back and again doing the research, every metric you improved. Your goals against dropped under 3 for those 1982-1983 playoffs, including back-to-back shutouts of Baltimore to start that championship season. Julie V made a point of reminding me a week ago when I talked to him that not only did you have back-to-back shutouts, but the game before that, you shut him out for the previous half. So it was 10 quarters consecutively of playoff shutout for Alan Mayer. Were you in a groove? Was the ball the size of a beach ball to you? Was the defense that dominating? To what do you attribute that magical run?
Well, first of all, leave it to Julie to come up with something like that. And matter of fact, as we're talking, I don't know if you can see here, pull this off from my.
Yes, sir.
I don't know if it shows it or not, but it's Julie V's one of his paintings. We have a bunch of them in our house. But anyway, with that said, that was a very special time because we had an incredibly good team. I mean, we had a bunch of good players, but we had a ton of really solid players. I think on that roster, we had a 48-game schedule, and like probably 12 of the players played over 42 of those games, which tells you that they're in it to win it. When the playoffs came, it was really exciting, and especially in the championship series that you alluded to. Why we did so well in that was pretty simple for me to say that. Number one, we had quality players that did not they wanted to win. We had a great mixture of players, with Julie up front and Addie and Lawrence Hilkes. We had Kaz Dana with Cheesy, to help out with the offensive lines with Hilkes, and then in the back with Marty and Weechie. They were, and Guy Newman came in and they did a great job. It was just a great team to play in, and I really believe that last series was special because of the team unity and the goalkeeper gets some credit for it, but excuse me, for you to get a shutout, you have to have a team organized defense in front of you, which we had. You had to be lucky and have balls hit off the post and go away, which we had. And then the keeper has to make a few different saves, good saves a game, and then that creates a shutout. But the way the team played in front of me, those 3 games in the arena was like no other. I mean, they were. I give them all the credit in the world, for staying strong and not allowing a lot of shots. If I go through those games, if I review, check out, what I had to do for it. Yeah, I had to do a little bit on it, but it's in my opinion, it was a total team effort, and to limit them to 1 goal in 3 games, it was just a great effort for everybody involved, and those back-to-back ones. But then the final game, when we played the final game, was, oh man, that was incredible. Sold out the stadium in an hour and a half or something. 12,948 people screaming. It was loud, and then we went down a few in the first quarter. We went down a few penalties against us, and we withheld that, and then to go up 1-0 on a great goal by Nico. Got a nice pass from Julie on it, and then when we went in the third quarter, halftime, nothing, and went in the third quarter, and Ron Newman showed his classy and incredible knowledge of the game when we had a power play, and that coach, that's why he's the greatest of all time. Excuse me.
And let's talk about this because when this came up, I got to tell you, when I watched this game, and this game that you're describing, and you nailed it, the Nico Romani roofed it for goal number 1. It's 1-0 at the half. It's 1-0. It's pretty late in the third quarter. I want to say it's about 4 or 5 minutes left in the third quarter. Sockers, Baltimore takes a blue card. Sockers are about to get a 2-minute power play. And Ron Newman, in a 1-0 championship deciding match, takes you off the field for Martin Donnelly to go to the 6v4 super power play, which is a phrase that was designed by Ron Newman. And, of course, scoring on one of the most famous Sockers goals of all time, Addie Coker, scissor kick on a rebound by right post to knock it in to make it 2-0, which turned out to be the decider. 2-1 was the final. But when you get that call to empty your net up 1-0, how does that make you feel as a keeper?
Well, it was basically, you have to, the way I went through it is I had complete trust in Ron Newman and his ability to make the right choice at the right time. And that was, I've played for a long time and been coaching now for a long time, a year or two. That was the most gutsiest move I've ever seen.
Into the corner for Coker. Addy back out along the wing for Woolrich. Back to the slot for Donnelly. Now to Dana. Cassie has a look, plays it off. The defenders beat the Hawley. And wide. Coker shot. He scores! There he is, Addy Coker breaking the drought. The shot by Dana, the shot by V, the goal by Coker. Oh my, what a brilliant effort. Goal number 4 of the playoff. It was so good, we'll look at it again.
We're talking championship. We're not talking regular game season. We're not talking first playoff. We're not talking about the first game of the playoff. You're talking about the last game of the entire year with a 1-0 lead. Is it's you can get scored upon very, very easily. But to have the guts to call that, and I mean, I'll never forget it, Craig. I see it in my head right this second. With Marty coming in to replace me. He made a nice pass to, I think it was Kazi, who took a shot and went up near post and came right back to Julie in the middle on the PK spot. And Julie he came up really high with his left foot and shot it, and it went across the goal just went off the post and went right to to Addy, who did an incredible scissors kick. I mean, I can still see it as you and I are talking now. I can see it in my mind because that was a very, 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 very important goal, and the circumstances of the game. Because you're talking Baltimore Blast, they had a really good team, so they could come back on you at any time, and then boom, 2-0, and it's like, wow. But that still wasn't the end of the game, because as you know, you can score with, they had a quarter and 8 minutes or something to go, and they could score 4 or 5 goals easily. So you still have to be worried about it. But my gosh, that was a big time goal, and Addy was, that's a goal of the century for me, and it's a big time deal for us.
There's no question about it. When you talk about those Blast teams, you think of Stankovic, Stamenkovic. Was the pizza man Stamenkovic? Was he one of the toughest guys to see coming at you in the sport of indoor?
Well, I can say equivalently that there's only a few players that, as a professional guy, that I would go ahead and pay to see someone play. And Stan the man, pizza man, he was one of those players that I would have paid to see play, because he was awesome. And you look at him, heavy, chunky guy, couldn't move. He had a big knee brace on him, and but he was one of the best. He could roll a ball and make all kinds of different kinds of passes. And I remember seeing him coming on one-on-one with me a few times, and all I tried to do is get myself as big as humanly possible and just try to take as much goal as I can, and not try to have him make me look really bad, because he has done that in the past, and he was just but if you looked at him as a player, you'd say, whoa, he's, his physical physique would be unassuming, but boy, could he play.
Oh,
he
my
play
gosh.
well.
Maybe the best foot skill in terms of just pure, close quarters, maneuvering the ball, foot skill. Maybe the best of that incredible class of Hall of Fame players.
Roll to the right point. Jump to the top of the box. Mayer goes up high and brings it down. What a spectacular grab by Alan Mayer as he sacrifices his body to get that ball. Now the Blast steal it again in midfield. Soccer's having trouble moving it into the Blast zone. Ercoli a drive. Mayer collects it.
Alan Mayer just superb. Just absolutely, like you say, sacrificing arm and leg.